Welcome to Taipei, the capital city of Taiwan. Now, this is one of the most fascinating places in all of Asia, but not that well known among Western travelers. So, let's go on a little tour and find out what Taipei has got to offer. Good morning and welcome back to the channel. Today we are exploring Taipei, the capital and largest city on the island of Taiwan. So what is Taiwan? Well, first of all, it is not just one island. The current territory of Taiwan incorporates 168 islands, and we are on the main island, also called Taiwan. The islands have been home to a variety of indigenous tribes for over 20,000 years. The main island had very little contact with the outside world until the late 1500s, when the Japanese sent envoys. A few decades later, the first colony was established by the Dutch, and the Spanish also built settlements on the island. The Europeans were defeated in the late 17th century by Chinese Ming-affiliated forces, who were in turn defeated by the Qing dynasty. The Qing dynasty ruled Taiwan for over 200 years, even though several parts of the main island were administered by indigenous tribes. The Qing were expelled by the Japanese, who established a colony in 1895. That colony remained in place until the end of World War II. Taiwan was then transferred to the Republic of China, at that time the internationally recognized government of the entirety of mainland China. However, right after World War II, the Chinese Civil War, which had been on hold for about 8 years, ensued once again. The conflict was fought between the communist CCP and the nationalist KMT. Long story short, the communists under Mao ended up controlling all of mainland China by 1949. The KMT and its followers under Chiang Kai-shek, totaling about 2 million people, then fled to Taiwan and acted as a sort of government in exile. As such, they saw themselves as the sole legitimate government of the entirety of China, while the CCP, who had established the People's Republic, also claimed to be the legitimate government of all the territories. For the next 2 decades, you had the government of the People's Republic in Beijing and the government of the Republic of China in Taipei. Some countries continued to recognize the ROC in Taipei, while others established diplomatic relations with the PRC in Beijing. Everything changed in the 70s when the US, under President Nixon, formally recognized the People's Republic as the only government of China. No longer internationally recognized, the ROC left the United Nations and focused on becoming a democratic entity. Thanks to a concerted effort, they managed to democratize their institutions after years of one-party rule. They also became one of the wealthiest and most prosperous places in all of Asia thanks to the technology and financial sectors. As you might know, Taiwan is the world's leading manufacturer of microchips. But of course, the political situation is tense. Not many countries recognize Taiwan as an independent nation, mostly due to pressure from China. The People's Republic in fact sees Taiwan as a rogue province that should reunify with the mainland, which Taipei refuses. And yeah, nobody really knows what will happen in the future, but right now it means that countries cannot have formal diplomatic relations with both. As an example, my country of Luxembourg cannot open an embassy here because they have one in Beijing. Consequently, relations between Taiwan and others generally happen on an informal basis. In this context, they have many non-diplomatic cooperation agreements and alliances with countries like Japan, South Korea, and of course the US. There are also plenty of non-diplomatic institutions that function like de facto embassies. For example, the American Institute in Taiwan. But enough of the politics, let's go explore. We are now at Taipei Main Station, the busiest train station in all of Taiwan, which is home to several massive underground malls that sell everything from clothes to electronics, furniture, and food. Here I took the metro and rode 8 stops to one of Taipei's best nature-related attractions, Elephant Mountain or Xiangshan. Taipei's metro network is efficient, super clean and cheap. Better still, it covers almost the entire city. Xiangshan is a 183-meter high peak close to the city center, and there are various hiking trails. I hiked up to the top and it took me about 20 minutes. I filmed this in early September and the temperature was 34 degrees Celsius with about 75% humidity. The conditions added to the intensity of the hike, which is basically one long staircase. On the plus side, the views were breathtaking and you can see the city's most iconic skyscraper from here. Taipei 101 was inaugurated on December 31st, 2004, and with its height of over 500 meters, it held the title of world's tallest building until 2010, when it was surpassed by the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Today it is the 11th tallest building on the planet and undoubtedly an eye-catching structure. The tower is also famous for its highly innovative earthquake and typhoon defense technology. Later that day, I went for a walk around the Ximending district, which is also the neighborhood where I was staying. I'll show you my accommodation later. Ximen is a bustling area with plenty of shops, restaurants, nightlife, and pedestrian zones. It reminds me a bit of Myeongdong in Seoul, but with its own unique charm. There were talented street performers, a night market, and overall a great atmosphere. I also wanted to mention that Taipei is a supremely clean, safe, and friendly city. I ended my first day in the Taiwanese capital with some delicious beef noodles. I went to a small restaurant in Ximending that some locals had recommended. It was rather popular and people were queuing, but I found a spot within 10 minutes. The good thing about eating solo in places like this is that the waiters will very quickly find you a seat next to some stranger. And I soon understood why people were lining up outside. The noodles were epic and very reasonably priced. The The first location that we're gonna cover on day 2 is the Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall. Completed in 1976, the site is dedicated to Chiang Kai-shek, the leader of China from 1928 till 1949. After the communist takeover of mainland China, Chiang Kai-shek became the president of the Republic of China in Taiwan. He was in office until his death in 1975. Inside the memorial complex, you'll find a massive statue and a museum with pictures and personal effects. Now, it is crucial to mention that the image and legacy of Chiang Kai-shek have changed quite a bit over the last few decades. He led an authoritarian government, and it was only after his death that Taiwan slowly embarked on the road to democracy. As such, his persona is quite controversial these days, and in line with this complexity, the Memorial Hall also hosts an exhibition on democracy and human rights. And finally, many Taiwanese want to break the cult of personality. There are even parks full of Chiang Kai-shek statues that were removed from official buildings and squares. After the Memorial Hall, it was time for a quick lunch, which consisted of some delicious Wonton noodles. So far, I am loving the food in Taiwan, especially the noodle soups. I then took a bus from Taipei main station to one of the city's best art museums. The Taipei Fine Arts Museum opened in 1983 and displays both local and international art. Some of the Taiwanese artists represented here are Hu Xiuzhen and Xiu Rui Xiang. Sorry for probably butchering those names. Regarding international works, there was a temporary exhibition by South African artist William Kentridge. I spent about 1.5 hours inside the museum, and it was definitely worth it if you enjoy modern art, especially considering the highly affordable entrance fee. I then returned to Ximending and got an amazing spicy pancake with meat from a street food store. Gotta say, I absolutely love this area. I started my third and final day in Taipei with a visit to one of the city's main temples, Lungshan. It was first built in the 18th century during the Qing dynasty, but destroyed several times by war and earthquakes. The current structure dates from the 1920s. The special aspect of Lungshan is that in addition to Chinese Buddhism, it also has places of worship for Chinese folk deities such as Mazu. The last place that I visited in Taipei is arguably the city's most impressive museum, the National Palace. It is situated around 1 hour by bus from central Taipei in the northern Shilin district. The National Palace Museum originally opened in the Forbidden City of Beijing in 1925. However, after fleeing to Taiwan, the nationalist government took the collection with them. Today, the museum hosts about 700,000 artifacts from different eras, and make no mistake about it, the collection is stunning. It comprises centuries-old Buddha statues, as well as a wide range of art and precious objects from the Ming and Qing kingdoms. The National Palace has 4 floors, and I spent almost 3 hours in here as a result of the sheer diversity of galleries. In terms of cultural sites in Taipei, this was my personal highlight. To end this video, let me quickly show you my accommodation. Hotels and Airbnbs aren't super cheap in Taipei, but there are good deals to be found, like this lovely renovated Airbnb in the Ximending walking neighborhood. The building was a bit old, but the studio itself was clean and comfortable, and it only cost 28 euros per night. And that is it for today. I really enjoyed my time in Taipei, and I would definitely return. A fantastic and very unique metropolis, and undoubtedly one of the more underrated big cities in Asia. Thanks very much for watching, and see you in the next one. 再见.